The Twitter files have finally found release, as Elon Musk promised. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Do you remember the accusations by State Attorneys General Eric Schmidt of Missouri and Jeff Landry of Louisiana that Twitter and Facebook had been state actors? Well, now we have evidence. The political left cannot deny it any longer, which is why they're now trying to deny its significance. More to the point, in releasing these files, Elon Musk has pledged that this will not recur. He also specifically pledges that more will come, and those pledges seem to have every leftist on edge. Now, before we dive in, and this will be a deep dive, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Aldous Huxley. Yes, that Aldous Huxley, as saying, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Entirely apropos to this subject, as I'm sure you'll see. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you will like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that. Leave me a tip. Any currency will do. Oh, as long as it's legal tender. Now then, the subject matter of the Twitter files, or at least this part of them, is the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post first broke it in October of 2020. This was the dreaded October surprise, except that Twitter deliberately suppressed it. In so acting, Twitter repeated an allegation that Russian, or was it Chinese, intelligence had planted the laptop. I have a link in the description to a 30-second flashback video from the Post-Millennial showing then-candidate Joe Biden saying just that. The actual tweets that made up the Twitter files thread come from Matt Taibbi, author of Griftopia, The Divide, The Business Secrets of Drug Dealing, and Hate Incorporated, among other works. Now, I've given links in the description to every other tweet. Per long-standing custom, each tweet after the first is a reply to the one before it. Such a tweet always displays with the tweet that it replies to. Matt Taibbi leads with a 12-tweet introduction. He says up front, this is only the first installment, and that he has thousands of internal documents from sources at Twitter. These sources are, I presume, Elon Musk's engineers, who took over Twitter, looked in the servers, found these documents, and said, hey boss, you've got to see this. Then he calls Twitter a human-built mechanism grown out of the control of its designers. In making that statement, he invokes the novel Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. At this point, I'm going to quote what he said about Twitter, how it started out, and what it became. Quote, Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true, real-time, global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly, over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. First a little, then more often, then constantly. Unquote, Matt Taibbi. Let me tell you something. Twitter started to bore me at about that time. I got a personal account on Twitter from day one. I won't share that with you because that is now my personal face. Declarations of Truth has its own account, and that is my public face, which I established only after Elon Musk took it over. I mention this to testify that I have watched the rot set in for years. Taibbi goes on, quote, by 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back, handled. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. Now, pay attention. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts. And because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation, there were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left, well, Democrats, than to the right. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it is also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives, unquote Matt Taibbi, who, in his 11th tweet, quoted a complete make on Twitter on the site Open Secrets. I'm going to link that in the description also because you have got to see it. They list how many political campaign contributions Twitter staff made and to whom. The top 9 recipients, as should not surprise you, are Democrats. Republicans got mere pittances in Twitter's history, and that especially held in the last 2 federal elections. Don't just take my word for it. Follow the link and see for yourselves. Now, back to the Twitter files. You have to follow the links because Taibbi shared more than his text. He shared illustrations in tweets 8 and 9. Tweet 8 shows the handling aspect with 5 specific examples. I'll have more to say about those later. That one came from Team Biden. Tweet 9 shows a similar memo with information apparently straight from the Democratic National Committee. One of them is a tweet from James Woods. Now, I don't know what to make of that one. I checked it through the Wayback Machine, and it looks as though Mr. Woods captured an off-color image from the laptop and put a frame around it to make a parody of a Team Joe campaign image. Mr. Woods will have to explain that himself. I understand that he is suing the Democratic National Committee on the strength of these revelations. Now, he left that tweet on October 24th, 2020. Very soon afterward, it was gone. That's what the Wayback Machine told me. So much for the introduction. Now we start getting into the meat and potatoes with part 1. I have links to 11 tweets there. And again, that's every other tweet. And with those, you can see them all. Part 1 is all about the Hunter Biden laptop and only that. So here we go. Quote, on October 14th, 2020, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. Now here he links to the article at the Post that tells us the real meat. A Ukrainian executive thanked Hunter Biden for an opportunity to meet Joe Biden. Moving on. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct message, a tool hitherto reserved for extreme cases, like, for example, the exploitation of children. White House spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany was locked out of her account for tweeting about the story, prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffer Mike Hahn, who seethed, at least pretend to care for the next 20 days. This led public policy executive Carolyn Strom to send out a polite Whiskey Tango Foxtrot query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the comms and policy teams, who had less control over moderation, and the safety and trust teams, who had it in their hands. Strom's note returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. Now here, Taibbi links to the policy as it then stood, courtesy of the Wayback Machine. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. Well, he hasn't seen the minutes of a high-level government meeting on which Vijaya Gadda, then the trust and safety officer, sat in. But again, he's probably saying there's no evidence that there's any Russian involvement. The decision he made at the highest level of the company was made at the highest level of the company, but without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal policy and trust Vijaya Gadda playing a key role. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was the excuse, but within a few hours, pretty much everyone realized that wasn't going to hold, but no one had the guts to reverse it. You can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange, which ends up including Gadda and former Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Comms official Trenton Kennedy writes, "I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe." By this point, everyone knew that this was fouled up beyond all recognition, said one former employee. But the response was essentially to err on the side of continuing to err. Former VP of Global Comms Brendan Borman asked, "Can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy?" To which former Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker again seems to advise staying the non-course because caution is warranted. A fundamental problem with tech companies and content moderation. Many people in charge of speech know or care little about speech and have to be told the basics by outsiders. To wit, in one humorous exchange on day one, Democratic Congressman Ron Khanna, of California, by the way, reaches out to Gadda to gently suggest that she hop on the phone to talk about the Backlash Ray speech. Khanna was the only Democratic official I could find in the files who expressed concern. Gadda replies quickly, immediately diving into the weeds of Twitter policy, unaware Khanna is more worried about the Bill of Rights. Khanna tries to reroute the conversation of the First Amendment, mention of which is generally hard to find in the files. Within a day, head of public policy Lauren Culbertson receives a ghastly letter/report from Carl Szabo of the research firm Net Choice, which had already polled 12 members of Congress, 9 Republicans, 3 Democrats, from the House Judiciary Committee to Representative Judy Chu's office. Net Choice lets Twitter know that a bloodbath awaits upcoming Hill hearings, with members saying it's a tipping point, complaining tech has grown so big that they can't even regulate themselves, so government may need to intervene. Szabo reports to Twitter that some Hill figures are characterizing the laptop story as tech's Access Hollywood moment. Szabo's letter contains chilling passages relaying Democratic lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation, and as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. Unquote Matt Taibbi, who illustrates his points with images of text, largely emails and text messages. But his last illustration is an image of text, I believe, from himself. It basically says that Democrats complained that Joe Biden was innocent, that tech companies were ineptly letting Republicans muddy the waters, and no, the First Amendment was not absolute. Reaction to these tweets varied from humorous to high praise to weeping and gnashing of teeth. The humorous tweets do not bear repeating. Of greater interest are 19 pro tweets that I've saved for you. Before I start talking about those, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel that you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Now, whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, about those pro tweets. Right off the bat, someone suggested Vijayagada raise disbarment for running an operation like this without consulting the CEO. A user you might have heard me mention before, the redheaded libertarian, wonders why the introduction stopped with tweet 12, but the part 1 series begins with tweet 16. What happened to tweets 13, 14, and 15? You want to know what I think? I think Matt Taibbi just lost count. In reply to someone saying that these revelations say nothing about the credibility of the laptop story, someone else points out what everyone knows by now. Even the Columbia Broadcasting System now admits that laptop was real and did not come from Russian intelligence. Someone else questions whether Jack Dorsey really was in the dark. The image of text in tweet 32 of a letter is of a letter from Representative Khanna saying at the end, quote, "Please keep this communication between us and Jack. No need to CC the team or forward to them," unquote, Ro Khanna. You want to know what I think? I think whoever got Ro Khanna's letter didn't tell Jack Dorsey jack blankety blank about it. 2 words, ladies and gentlemen: plausible deniability. 2 other users make much of a strange personal email address for Jack Dorsey. It reads, and I kid you not, jack@0.pizza. As far as I know, the word pizza is not a recognized internet domain. No one can explain that one. Someone else prints out that we've lost election integrity and confidence in our democratic processes. Immediately, someone says, "Oh, you're from the it's a republic, not a democracy camp, right?" Then a third user says, "We are a republic, and someone needs remedial civics education." Then another user shares video about Joe Biden threatening to withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees from Ukraine unless they fired a prosecutor who was investigating Hunter at the time. Another one reminds us that the government doesn't get to break the First Amendment, regardless of political affiliation, which is a theme to which 2 other users turn. Legacy media doing government's bidding in breach of the First Amendment. After another user talked about Twitter losing ad revenue and said it was right, and said many of us are looking for alternative platforms, well, still another said no one would notice him if he left. And he also says that what is done in the dark always comes to light. And someone points out what this was: election interference. I've talked about that before, haven't I? Still another raised this salient point. Authoritative surveys have shown that 15 to 17% of those who voted for Biden in 2020 would not have had they known about that laptop. Now, if we are to believe that those election returns are accurate, think about what that means. There goes Biden's baseline. So this is the method that the trusted safety team with Vijayagada leading it use to ensure a Biden win, which explains the graphics someone shared of a blindfolded voter trying to make facts going away by ignoring them. I'll mention just one more, the last one, that came in very late last night. Harmy Dillon, a conservative lawyer who runs a firm with offices in several states, mentioned that her firm was already suing Twitter and the California Secretary of State for the suspension of yet another user who shared commentary about the election of 2020. That case is already on appeal, and it goes to argument before the Ninth Circuit. Said she, and I quote, "Today's releases vindicate our claims, more First Amendment lawsuits incoming." Unquote, Harmy Dillon. Now we turn to the cons, 12 in all. Now one other tweet I thought I had, someone must have thought better of and deleted it, and that later on I'm going to tell you why. These con tweets say more about the account holders than about Tybee or the Twitter files. So let's see. Well, someone says it was clever of Elon to let a proxy release the files to give Elon immunity from lawsuit. Next, someone says flatly that the whole series violates the law because Hunter Biden had diplomatic immunity. Then you have the usual question about what has this to do with Biden or his job as president. Evidently, he's forgetting that the laptop story was about corruption involving Joe Biden. Here we have somebody actually saying that this had no place in public discourse because early voting had already begun. Well, excuse me, maybe this is a reason to stop early voting. Then we have somebody comparing Matt Taibbi to Geraldo Rivera looking for Al Capone's vault. Yes, I saw that TV special. He really came a cropper with that one. A particular user, whom I will not name, used an obscenity to describe freedom of speech. Still another one predicted that this would kill Twitter because it would get no advertising. Next, we have someone saying that there is no conclusion to the series because there is no illegality. You might want to ask Senator-elect Eric Schmidt about that. Someone else tries to make the New York Post out to be the National Enquirer or some such thing. Then someone said flatly, he doesn't believe a word of it. It's all lies. Next, someone says he's sick of our right-wing propaganda and conspiracies, and we don't represent the majority of Americans. Hey, we won the popular vote at midterms by a margin of 5 million votes. Next, someone concludes that nothing shows that the story was at all legitimate. Now, about that tweet that got deleted. It said that if it was necessary to get Donald Trump out of office and keep him out, he, the user, would gladly accept Chinese Communist Party-style censorship. No wonder he deleted that tweet. I can just imagine the flack he must have gotten for that one. In addition, the Post-Millennial has a copy of Yoel Roth's post on the leftist social media Mastadon. I have a link to their article in the description. There, Roth writes, and I quote, publicly posting the names and identities of frontline employees involved in content moderation puts them in harm's way and is a fundamentally unacceptable thing to do, unquote, Yoel Roth. Oh, really? Where was Roth when his friends publicly posted the names and addresses of frontline patriots decrying the left's excesses? I am not a lawyer, but if Roth hasn't yet received a summons from Harmy Dillon, he should expect one. Aside from that, Mr. Tim Miller wrote in the Bulwark, out this morning at 3:32 a.m. Eastern Time, to allege that the only things anyone blocked were pornographic pictures from the laptop. I have links in the description to 3 tweets describing those findings in the Wayback Machine. Newsflash, those tweets were not all by any means, and more will come later today. So, what do we know? Other than that at least somebody knows how to use the Wayback Machine other than me. To be specific, we now know not only that Twitter was a state actor, we know who at Twitter was doing the state acting. We also have a further demonstration that the souls of many American citizens we're in a very dark place. Consider the user who actually would welcome Chinese Communist Party style censorship if that's what it took to keep Donald J. Trump out of office. Sometimes some of us like to think that only someone that coldly determined would shrug off a story like this, but seeing a leftist actor confirm his attitude in public should chill any freedom lover to the bone. The Twitter files show us that Twitter acted like a communist platform while pretending not to be. Sadly, many consumer products and services routinely get away with such fraud because it isn't legally actionable. Or is it? In addition to Missouri versus Biden, you have Harmony Dillett's lawsuit already, and she says there's going to be more to come. But the reaction to their publication shows us that too many of our fellow Americans are simpatical with it. Anything to keep Donald Trump out of office is the attitude of a small-time bully joining up with a bigger bully. In closing, I quote these lines from Shakespeare. Angels are bright still, though the brightest fell. Though all things foul would wear the look of grace, yet grace must still look so. Macbeth, Act 4, Scene 3, lines 10 through 12. Link in the description to the article, to that video clip of Biden dismissing the laptop as a Russian plant, to Matt Taibbi's introductory tweets, to Twitter's profile on open secrets, to the Part 1 Twitter Files tweets, to the reactions, pro and con, to the post-millennial article containing Yoel Roth's quote, to 3 tweets purporting to track down some of the deleted tweets, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and the Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to rsilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. And on the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to my Twitter War playlist and videos from other influencers who have also treated this subject. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.